What's up, guys? So the last round of DLC for Season 1 in Dragon Ball FighterZ just came out. So now we have all 8 characters, and I thought what I would do is I'm going to run through the characters, all 8 of them, in order from worst to best, kind of ranking them in terms of, how competitively viable they are and where I think they are on the tiers. So that's not to say that if your favorite character is low on this list, that means you shouldn't use them. By all means, all these characters are definitely viable. It's just that with the better characters, you are going to have a little bit of an easier time getting wins. But you can definitely still make it happen with the lower ranked characters. So let's get things started. I think number 8, we're going to have to go with Broly. So Broly's kind of interesting. Usually in most fighting games, grapplers are like really deadly when they get close to you, but they just struggle to get in. But Broly's a little bit different. Broly's neutral is actually not bad. He's got, a very good ki blast, a pretty good projectile here that eats other projectiles. This shield is pretty interesting too. He can use that to get in, and then obviously he has this armor that he can go through stuff with. But in my opinion, his big problem is actually mixing the opponent up. He does struggle a little bit. He does not have a low hitting down light. So really his only mix-up is going to come off of this command throw. And it is reactable. It can be very difficult. A lot of people still get hit by the command throw, even though it is reactable, especially online. But at higher level play, that's less of an issue, and you can actually punish him on reaction if you see the command throw by doing, like jump and then ki blast and vanish, something like that. You can get a punish if you react very well to the command throw. So the issue of him not having any quote-unquote real mix-ups is a big problem. He's also got some kind of awkward normals, like his launcher is pretty wild. This is definitely not one of the better launchers in the game, just because of its severe lack of horizontal range. Plus his jumping down heavy isn't like particularly good. It does have its uses, but generally I think that you would rather have an air launcher like most characters have, because what you're stuck with here is if you catch them air to air, he doesn't really have a way to go into big damage. Really all he can do is like vanish into a little combo here. Since he doesn't have that air launcher, it does kind of limit his combo potential. So one bonus for Broly, though, is his assist is pretty decent. Like, really, it's not that bad of an assist. I would say it's slightly above average or maybe about average. You can use it for combo extension. It's not that hard. Plus, you can use it for block strings. So it's not a terrible assist by any means, but I do think that he does kind of rely on assists to get his mix-ups going. So generally you are going to want to run him first or second. But so yeah, Broly, just more of an awkward character in my opinion. He does have some good stuff at neutral, some good ways of getting in and controlling space. But once he gets in, it's a little bit risky trying to get those hits, trying to go for those command grabs all the time. It's a little bit predictable and a little bit risky. Next up at number 7, we've got Base Form Goku. So Base Form Goku is a character that I was hopeful for, but I think ended up being a little bit disappointing. He does have some good stuff, like Kaioken is particularly a pretty good super. You can get so much damage off this if your other characters are dead. Plus, he does have an air and ground beam, which is always nice. His neutral is not that bad, but he does have a lot of issues. Obviously, no low hitting down light. It can be tough to mix people up, but that's not his biggest issue, I would say. A big problem is that he doesn't really have a way to go into any damage off of a vanish situation. So like 2 of his special moves, this shoulder charge and this command throw, the only way to combo off them without some pretty specific assist stuff is with a vanish. And then when you land that vanish, he can't really get any damage here. There's no way for him to go into super, no way for him to go into a sliding knockdown or anything like that. Only exception being if he has the Spirit Bomb charged, then he can at least do that. But even still, you're not going to be getting much damage off there. So his mix-ups don't really lead into any damage, so that I think is a very big problem. Plus, speaking of the Spirit Bomb, I just think that it's a little bit too much of a requirement to have to charge this to level 3 to be able to land his level 3 super. Like, really, you're not going to be charging it to level 3 that much in a match. So to me, it's kind of a big ask. Like, you have to be in a pretty good position to be able to charge this, whether you have them like blocking Vegeta assist or something, or whether you have them like in a hard knockdown all the way across the screen and then you want to charge it up. I think generally, if you're in a situation like that, you're going to want to use that to go in. That's just more advantageous to use those situations where you're at advantage to go in and try to get a hit, rather than kind of giving up the advantage in exchange for charging the level 3, which, like, a lot of times you're not even going to be able to land this. You're going to need another hit to even be able to take advantage of this. So, to me, it's a big ask. The reward is obviously pretty big. His level 3 super is extremely damaging, so that's nice, but to me, it's just a little bit too hard to set up. So that combined with his underwhelming damage in most situations and his lack of very good mix-up, I think make base form Goku a little bit underwhelming. I do like the character. I think he's pretty interesting, but I think he just struggles a bit too much to be consistent. So that's my reasoning. So next up we've got Vegeta. Vegeta, he does have some really big damage. I would say that is like his biggest advantage, is his damage can get out of control. Plus he does build a lot of meter, which is nice. So once he's actually in your face, hitting you, or even making you block, his block pressure is very good. He can make you block for such a long time, especially once you get assists involved. So once Vegeta gets in on you, he can be kind of a problem, but I do think he has some issues getting in. You know, his projectiles are fairly weak. Really, all he's got is this thing, which can be good for beating beams. Usually you can, like, snipe people out of their beams, but it doesn't really do much in terms of helping you get in. Plus, it can be super dashed through, so that's not great. So his projectiles are a little bit weak. I feel like usually to get in, you either need to rely on an assist, or you need to, like, just really go YOLO and do like something like this, or maybe like mash auto combo trying to get in. So it can be a little bit tough to get in with Vegeta. And then the other thing is that his mix-ups are a little bit weak. So obviously his downlight doesn't hit low. It's this weird palm slam thing that doesn't hit overhead either. It can be blocked high or low. So this weird downlight can kind of hurt him. It does have the use of hopping over some low attacks and hitting them, but to me it's just not that consistent. So his only real low is his down medium, and his only overhead is his towards medium. So to me, he's a fairly easy character to block compared to some of the other characters in the game. And while it can be annoying to just have to sit there and block forever and deal with, you know, his auto combo into assist calls, it's like the threat is never that high of him opening you up for the most part. So while he's the third from the bottom, I still do think that he is a pretty scary character. You know, obviously once he does get in on you, it is pretty scary because you do not want to get hit by him, because he is easily going to do 50% plus to you and build meter while he's doing it. So he's a very dangerous character. He can steal games from kind of the brink of defeat just because of his extreme combo potential. But at neutral, I think he's a little bit unreliable, and you kind of do have to do some YOLO stuff to try to get hits. So that's why I'm putting Vegeta in at number 6. Alright, now we're getting into controversial territory here. Coming in at number 5, we've got Android 17. So a lot of people might disagree with me. I feel like this character was very hyped when he came out. A lot of people saying he might be top tier, but I just don't think that ended up working out. He does have quite a lot of problems. First and foremost, his limbs leave a lot to be desired. A lot of his normals are like really short and stubby. He has a couple good ones. His stand medium is pretty good. His down forward heavy, obviously, is very good. But a lot of his normals, it just feels much harder to force the opponent to block than it does with most characters. And he does want to make the opponent block, because once he's in that position where he's forcing you to block, he can mix you up quite a lot. He can do 4 lows in a row, which most characters cannot do. So that's pretty cool. Makes him very dangerous. These Rekkas are kind of interesting. He can mix you up high-low with them, but it doesn't seem that solid. Because you can be interrupted whenever you go for the overhead, it seems a little bit dangerous. They can down heavy you out of it. Obviously, you can do stuff like the shield to try to bait that, but it just seems like not that strong of a mix-up situation. Most of the time, I would rather just force them to block an assist and then go for an actual like high-low off of an air dash. Take advantage of his extra lows that he has on the ground. So his Rekkas, I think, are a little bit gimmicky, I would say. They are good in combos. He can do some actually pretty crazy damage in combos, especially in the corner. So that's pretty cool, but if you actually do mix someone up with the Rekkas, so like if you hit them overhead and then use that to sort of start your combo, he can't really get very much damage off of it. He does lack the ability to go into a sliding knockdown off of most situations, unless you have his projectile charged. So it kind of reminds me of base Goku, where it's like, you know, it's kind of a big requirement. If a character can only do a sliding knockdown, if they have this thing charged that has a pretty long animation to charge up, to me it's a pretty big ask. And you know, he's got the wall bounce, which is actually nice. I think I actually underrated this move. Some people have definitely shown me that it can be very tricky and useful in neutral, especially when combined with assists. But in general, I just think that he's a little bit too weak at neutral. That's his big problem. Once he gets in, he can kind of go wild on you, but his lack of good projectiles, he really does not have good projectiles at all. He's just got his ki blasts and then this thing that he has to have charged up. So his lack of consistent projectiles he can use at neutral, his very, very stubby normals, they hurt him a lot. So I think that his neutral is fairly weak, and even though he can be very explosive in the right hands, I just don't think that he's top tier material. So that's why I'm throwing him in here at number 5. Next up, we've got the character that was released alongside Android 17. It's Cooler. So Cooler, I think, is pretty good. Really, he has one big problem, and his one big problem is lack of mix-up. He does not have a low-hitting down light. So his only lows, he does have 3 lows, which are kind of nice. He has down medium, forward heavy, and then quarter circle back plus ki. But this one is a little bit unreliable because the opponent can just like jump over it and come hit you. So I don't really consider that a good low in the sense of like Android 17's down forward heavy, which is a much better low. So, and also, even though he's, you know, this sort of big hulking character, he does not have a command grab, unlike Broly and Android 16. So his mix-ups are a little bit lacking, but that's really the only issue he has. Otherwise, he's very solid. You know, his beam is slow, but it's still nice to have a beam that you can do on the ground in the air. Most characters do not have that luxury. Plus, he's got the really big benefit of this Dragon Punch. This thing is just always useful. It goes through absolutely everything. You can combo off it, and he can actually get good damage off of it. I've seen combo videos and stuff where people are getting like 35, 40% off it without spending that much meter. So his damage in general, I think, is pretty solid, especially when you get assists involved. His range is obviously very good with these mediums, jump medium, down medium, and he can go into his launcher from just a mile away. Like, the range on this launcher is absolutely crazy. So his air-to-air potential is really, really good. Like, if the opponent is jumping around, you can like catch them from a mile away, go into his launcher, and really get things going. So I think he's a very, very solid character. So Cooler kind of reminds me of Super Saiyan Goku in a way, where he can't really mix you up. Goku's mix-ups are not that good, but he's still a very good character because he is so good at neutral. At pretty much any range on screen, you know, he's a threat, and he can get in on you and always confirm into something good. And Cooler's pretty similar. His confirms are amazing. His neutral is very good. So even though he doesn't really have good mix-ups, I still think he's a good character. Plus, his assist is quite nice. The assist will go through pretty much everything. It only has one vulnerable frame where it can be hit, so most of the time, the opponent's trying to do some stuff, you can just call the assist and blow through it. So I think Cooler can really fit anywhere on a team, any position, first, second, or third. I think he's a very well-rounded character, and while nothing he has seems like super broken, he's just very solid. I don't really think he has any big flaws, other than that one I mentioned, which is his lack of very good mix-up. So that's why Cooler's coming in at number 4. And then next up, coming in at number 3, we've got Base Form Vegeta. So Base Form Vegeta is a very, very good point character. Once he gets in on you, it's very hard to get him off. He has some really sick mix-ups. His high-low is very good. He's got a lot of things that can mess you up, you know, like he can pass through you with this teleport thing. He can go overhead on you with this teleport and then keep it going. So his mix-ups are very brutal, and then once he lands a hit, especially in the corner, his damage is pretty wild. He's got these loops that probably everyone has seen by now, if I'm actually able to do them. There we go. So he's got those loops. He can just rip out a ton of damage at any time. He can even do them mid-screen in certain scenarios, but it can be a little bit harder to set up. So Vegeta, very, very solid point character once he gets in on you. His neutral can be a little bit weird. His only real projectile is this Destructo Disc, which is not that good. At least it's not that good at actually using it for controlling space. You kind of have to guess where the opponent's going to go and then steer it to try to catch them. You can use this for some mix-up stuff. You know, if you're close to the opponent, you can throw it and then hit them afterwards, which is pretty nice. But for actually controlling space, it's not that good. And he does not have the very good Ki Blast that Super Saiyan Vegeta has. You know, Super Saiyan Vegeta sniping people with his Ki Blast is such an effective strategy. But with base form Vegeta, he doesn't really have that. He can use his down Ki Blast to set up some mix-ups, which is pretty nice. You know, jump in, throw the Ki Blast, chase in after it. That's pretty good. But for like a space control tool, his Ki Blasts are not that good. And he does not have like a beam or anything, obviously. So his neutral can be a little bit weak. He does have some stubby normals, not as bad as Android 17, but still not amazing. But again, once he gets in, he's just an absolute terror. I do think he's pretty much relegated to the point character only position. His assist is like whatever. It's a below average assist, I would say. But it's not terrible. But I just think he relies on assists a lot to shore up his weaknesses in neutral and to allow him to use his very effective mix-ups. So base Vegeta, very, very good point character, very damaging. Really, I think his only downside really is that he's kind of a one-note character. He's only good when he's in the opponent's face. He's only really good, in my opinion, in the first slot, so you are kind of limited when you're picking him. He's very good at the thing he does, but that's really the only thing he's able to do. And so that's my reasoning for why base form Vegeta is number 3. Coming in at number 2, I've got Zamasu. So this might come as a surprise to some people, but I just think Zamasu is really amazing. On point, he's not quite the monster that base form Vegeta is, but he's got so much more flexibility. First of all, this projectile, don't sleep on it. This projectile is very, very good. It used to be a lot slower, but it did get buffed. So this is nice for just controlling space. You can confirm off it very easily into pretty good damage. And Zamasu can always go into a soft knockdown for just 1 meter, which is nice. Not a lot of characters have that privilege. His mix-ups and damage can actually get a little bit crazy, especially in the corner. You know, when you involve the orbs and stuff, he really makes you guess. And it can be very, very tough to get out of stuff like that. So I think the orbs are actually very powerful. They're very useful. His Blades of Judgment super is actually pretty useful as well. It might seem a little bit gimmicky at first, but I think it definitely has its uses. His level 3 also is extremely good. At first, I didn't think that this was that good because it's fairly low damaging. But the nice thing about it is, it hits the opponent anywhere. So if the opponent is trying to do like anything, you know, you just see him do it, you just do your level 3, and you'll just get him. So it's really, really good for those purposes. Plus you get a nice little mix-up afterwards from the hard knockdown. So those are the reasons why I think he's good on point. He can also make the opponent block for a really long time. That's worth noting. You know, once he gets his orbs involved, really the opponent is going to have to guess because the orbs are very, very tricky. If you have an assist that lets you sort of set it up, you can get the mix-ups going like crazy. So I think he's a very solid character on point. I don't actually think he's as good as base form Vegeta on point, but I think what makes him so much better is his utility. So his assist is very good. It's like a really nice assist. It doesn't seem like anything crazy at first, but the fact that you can just throw it and then chase behind it, use that as an opportunity to get in, that can really help characters who struggle to get in on point. So like I was talking about earlier, base form Vegeta, like Android 17, Vegito, characters like that who they have a little bit of a harder time controlling neutral. This assist really shores up their weaknesses. It's nice for that. Plus you can use it for combo extension as well. not that tricky, so it's a good overall assist. Plus, by having Zamasu on your team, I think you actually enable a lot of damage via double supers. He's one of the best characters in the game at setting up double supers. A lot of characters that can't normally get it can using his super, so that's really nice. He can really add a lot of damage to characters who otherwise kind of struggle to get really crazy damage. So he's one of the better support characters in the game. Normally I like him in the second position on a team, because that way the first character gets to take advantage of that pretty nice assist, but then also when Zamasu comes in himself, if you've got a good assist in third, he can really just become a terror, you know? Forcing him to block, set up the orbs, stuff like that, his mix-ups can get really out of control. So I think Zamasu is probably a little bit slept on. I think most people maybe don't realize how good he is, but I think he's a very amazing character, and so that's why I put him here in the second slot. Coming in at number 1, I feel like everyone knew this was coming. It's Bardock. Bardock is just insanely good. Perhaps the best character in the game. Really, he just dominates pretty much every aspect of the game. He is very, very good once he gets in on you, and it's not hard to get in. He's got the Rebellion Spear, one of the most ridiculous moves in the game. This thing reaches so far. You can go into a combo off it whenever it hits, or you can just force the opponent to block, use it to set up a vanish and get into an advantageous position. So he's got an invincible level 1 super, which is very rare. Very few characters in the game have this. Plus, you know, if you land it, you can go into his other level 1 super. He can chain supers together, which almost no other character in the game can do. Plus, his level 3 is just absurd. Whenever this thing lands, he always gets a crazy mix-up off it. Even if he lands it in the air, pretty rare. Most characters, their level 3 only gets them a mix-up if they land it on the ground. But Bardock is one of the few exceptions to that. His level 3 is absolutely insane. If you watched EVO Top 8 this year, I think there was like 30 solid minutes of just watching Bardock level 3 animation play out. It's really crazy. So Bardock also is very flexible. He's not like base Vegeta where you have to play him in the first slot. You can really play him in any slot. His assist is quite good. It's not as good as something like Yamcha or whatever, but it's still very good. It's very fast, it goes really far, and it keeps them grounded, so that allows some extra combo potential. So you can definitely run him in other slots and take advantage of that assist. Plus, the more meter you build before Bardock comes in, the stronger he's going to be. Because of, like I talked about, invincible level 1, the ability to chain level 1s. Using assists, he can do like 4 level 1s in one combo. It's crazy. And then plus he can cash that meter in for level 3 and always go in for the mix-up. So really, I feel like there's nothing more to say. Everything about Bardock is good except for his projectile game. His projectile game is pretty weak. Obviously, he doesn't have any kind of beam or anything. He only has this up-close punch. But really, he doesn't need it. Because of the power of Rebellion Spear, and because generally you're going to be taking advantage of assists with Bardock, he really does not need projectiles to get in. He can just clip you from anywhere and then just kill you, because that's how powerful he is. So, nothing else to say about Bardock. He's ridiculously good. But I think the other characters on this list are definitely worth buying as well. If you did not pick up the season pass and you're looking to just buy characters piecemeal, I absolutely think the way to go is just play the characters that interest you most. Hopefully I was able to give you some insight into how each character plays a little bit, so you can better make a decision. But yeah, if we're going purely based on tiers, I think Bardock number 1, Zamasu number 2, and then Vegeta number 3. Some people might disagree with me. I think it is very close between Zamasu and base Vegeta. I do think they're both very, very good characters, but I did have to give the slight edge to Zamasu. So make sure to let me know what you think down in the comments. Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Make sure to shout me out in the comments, or click either of the links here on screen to go see more videos by me. Click the sub button so that you never miss an upload. I upload 5 days a week, guys. Or you can click the Patreon link to go to my Patreon and help support the channel. So that's going to be it for the video, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.